They thought it was just a joke, a cruel laugh, a spilled cup, and a wheelchair covered in sticky juice. But what the bullies didn't know was that someone was watching, someone who would not let it slide. And 20 minutes later, those bullies would be on their knees, regretting every drop they poured. The cafeteria was always loud, but that day the laughter was sharper, mocking, cutting, and heartless. In the middle of it sat Emily, a sweet, soft-spoken girl in a wheelchair. She had been born with cerebral palsy, and while her body sometimes failed her, her smile never did. She loved books, painting, and watching people, though she often stayed quiet because the world wasn't always kind to her. Across the room, a group of bullies whispered and chuckled. Their leader, Tyler, was the kind of boy who thrived on attention. He thought cruelty was power. He thought breaking someone else's spirit made him stronger. And today, his target was Emily. He walked up with a carton of grape juice, smirking. "Hey, Emily," he sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. "You look thirsty." Before she could answer, he tipped the carton over her lap. The juice splashed across her jeans, her wheelchair, and her tray. The cafeteria roared with laughter. Emily froze, her cheeks burning red as tears filled her eyes. She didn't know what to do. Her hands trembled, and her voice failed her. She just sat there, soaked, humiliated, and alone. Not everyone laughed, though. At a corner table, Aaliyah watched. Aaliyah was a quiet black girl who didn't speak much in school, but she carried herself with a calm strength. She had seen cruelty before, and she hated it with every bone in her body. Emily's tears hit her like fire. Aaliyah clenched her fists under the table. She had promised herself she wouldn't fight anymore. After all, she had been suspended once before for standing up to a bully. Her mother always told her, "Choose your battles wisely." But as she watched Tyler smirk and walk away, leaving Emily broken, something inside her snapped. She stood up. The cafeteria didn't notice at first, but those close to her saw the look in her eyes, calm, focused, and dangerous. Aaliyah didn't move right away. She waited, breathing slow, letting the anger settle into something sharper. She wasn't going to explode in rage. She was going to make Tyler and his crew remember this day forever. 20 minutes later, the gym was crowded. Lunch break had ended, and most students had gathered there before classes. Tyler and his crew strutted around like they owned the place, retelling the story of how they baptized Emily with juice. Their laughter was loud, cruel, and intoxicating, and that's when Aaliyah walked in. The room shifted. She didn't raise her voice, but her presence was enough to silence a few whispers. She walked straight to Tyler, her eyes locked on his. The gym suddenly felt smaller. "You think you're funny?" she asked, her voice low but steady. Tyler chuckled. "Relax, hero. It was just a joke." Aaliyah took a step closer. "No. A joke is when everyone laughs, even the person it's about. What you did, that was cruelty." Tyler smirked and moved forward, trying to intimidate her. "And what are you going to do about it?" The answer came faster than anyone expected. Aaliyah moved like lightning. With one swift motion, she grabbed his wrist, twisted, and flipped him onto the floor. The sound of his body hitting the ground echoed through the gym. His crew rushed forward, but Aaliyah was ready. One boy swung at her. She ducked and swept his legs from under him. Another lunged. She caught him by the shirt and shoved him back into the bleachers. Every movement was precise, disciplined, and devastating. She wasn't fighting with rage, she was fighting with skill. Within minutes, Tyler and his crew were sprawled on the gym floor, groaning in pain, humiliated in front of everyone. Aaliyah stood tall, her breathing steady, her eyes unshaken. The entire gym was silent. For once, the bullies had no audience to cheer them on. For once, the school saw who the real coward was and who the real warrior was. Aaliyah walked over to Tyler, who was clutching his side, his face pale. She knelt beside him and whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, "The next time you even think about hurting someone who can't fight back, remember this moment. Because I'll be here." She stood up, walked over to Emily, and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Emily looked up, tears still glistening in her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. Word spread like wildfire. The story of the juice, the fight, and the victory of a girl who refused to let cruelty win. And from that day forward, Emily was treated differently, not as the girl in a wheelchair, but as someone worth protecting, someone whose smile mattered. And Aaliyah, she became a symbol, not just of strength, but of justice. She didn't fight because she loved violence. She fought because sometimes silence isn't enough. Sometimes, you need someone brave enough to stand up and say, "No more." 2. Final inspiring message. This story reminds us that cruelty thrives when good people stay silent. But one act of courage can change everything. Aaliyah proved that real strength isn't about fists or fear. It's about standing up for those who can't. And sometimes, the loudest voice in the room comes from the one who refuses to let injustice win.